بسم الله الأمن الأقدس وإنما البهاء من الله على واحد الأول بعزة وجلال. In the name of God, the most impregnable, the most holy, and the splendor from God be upon the first unity with exaltedness and majesty. I want to talk today in this podcast a little bit about a question, rather the problem that has been plaguing all discussions of Bābīism pretty much from its inception, and that is the question of the Bāb's grammar. It appears to me, after about 20 plus years of reading through these Bābī texts and manuscripts, that a lot of people have misunderstood what is actually going on. So these accusations of incorrect grammar actually beg the question about the real dynamics at work in the writings of the Bāb. So I'm going to propose a theory here, and my theory is that what we are dealing in the writings of the Bāb isn't so much a question of incorrect grammar of Arabic, or even Persian, because the Bāb has also been accused of incorrect grammar in Persian, but rather what we're dealing with is a process of hybridization, a form of theurgic or spiritual, esoteric hybridization using language as the vehicle to that end. Now, what this is has nothing to do with postmodernism, nor does it have anything to do with syncretism. We're actually dealing with a form of what I would also classify as a form of Hermetic harmonia. So the accusation, for example, that Hamid Algar levels at Abbas Amanat, in an otherwise great critical review of Abbas Amanat's book, 2011 book, Apocalyptic Islam, when it comes to the question of the Bāb, I think Dr. Algar, misses the point entirely about what is going on in the Persian Bayān. But this is also the fault of Abbas Amanat himself, who grossly misrepresented the doctrines of the Bayān, the Persian Bayān specifically, in the chapter of the book, Apocalyptic Islam and Iranian Shiism. So what is hybridization? Well, hybridization is a term that you find in theoretical physics, is a term that you find in chemistry, but it's also a term that you find in linguistics. And according to linguistic theory of hybridization, it is the process of one variety blending with another variety. In sociolinguistics, a variety is termed by the technical word lect, L-E-C-T, and is a specific form of a language or language cluster. This may include languages, dialects, register styles, or signifiers, or other forms of language, as well as a standard variety that may occur simultaneously within a given context, subtext, or even pretext. With the Bāb, with the primal point, I would argue from the very beginning, actually, even before the Qayyamul Asma, before the Book of the Peerless Names, the commentary on the Surah of Joseph, that this was already going on in his commentary on the Surah of the Cow, which is the subject of a recent publication by Todd Lawson, a very, very good book, by the way, and I recommend people to go buy themselves a copy of this book and support the author. So, let us look at this hybridization, or this harmonia, theurgic hybridization in the writings of the Bāb. I will begin by pointing out that the Bāb already underscores this within the 16th gate of the third unity of the Persian Bayān, where he says, ولی سعی نمایند در علم حروف و اقترانات اعداد اسماء الله و اقترانات کلمات مشابهه و اقترانات آثار مشابهه در محل خود که اذن داده شده که نظم بیان را هر کس به هر نحوی که شیرین‌تر میتواند دهد اگرچه بر هزار نوع ظاهر شود ولی کل راجع به نفس بیان می‌گردد زیرا که او حرفی زائد نمی‌گردد و از او حروفی ناقص نمی گردد الی آنکه نظم حفظ و اقتران بعضی با بعضی به مناسبت این نسخه و آن نسخه تفاوت به هم میرساند. گویا مشاهده می شود که هیچ نظمی در او داده نمی شود از بعد الی آنکه احلا و انظم از نظم اول می گردد. توبا لمن ینظر الی نظم بهاءالله و یشکر ربه. Now, translation of this passage, very important passage, is but they should strive in the science of the letters and the correspondences of the numbers with the names of God and the correspondence of similar writings and the correspondence of similar works in their context, because permission hath been granted for any person to arrange the ordering of the Bayān in whatsoever manner that appears sweetest. For even if it appears in 1,000 forms, yet all of it returns to the soul of the Bayān, because no redundancy of letter accrues to it and no deficiency of letters returns to it, other than what in the process of conserving and compiling by reason of deficiencies in this manuscript copy from that manuscript copy, divergences may arise. As such, it is seen that no ordering is given in it afterwards except the best and most ordered arrangement of the original ordering. Blessed be the one who observes, looks over to the order of the splendor of God, and is thankful to his Lord. Now, before the Baha'is get excited that the Bāb is indicating a Baha'u'llah, let's go back one chapter before as to what the Bāb's definition of Baha'u'llah actually is. In the 15th gate of the third unity, the previous chapter that I read, the primal point states, ظهورالله در هر ظهور که مراد از مشیت اولیه باشد بهاءالله بوده و هست به کل شیئی نزد بهای او لا شیئی بوده و هستند. The manifestation of God in every manifestation, by which is meant the primal will, has been and is the splendor of God, Baha'u'llah, wherein every single entified thing in the face of its splendor is and has been as nothingness. Okay? So, a few things going on here, but let me just address this final point. The Baha'is like to use this particular passage in the 16th gate of the third unit of the Persian Bayān as indication of a prophecy regarding Mirza Hussein Ali an-Nuri, wherein no such thing is actually going on. The Nazm Baha'u'llah that the primal point is talking about is actually the esoteric architecture of the writings of the Bāb himself, and in the future the true messianic figure of the Bayān. And also additionally, the mirror of the Bayān, namely Subha Azal. This is what Baha'u'llah refers to. And taking these passages out of context to try to justify the claims of Baha'u'llah, in the immediate context of these passages, obviously shows that that is not the case at all. So, now that we got that out of the way, now, let us give a few examples of this harmonia, this theurgic hybridization that I'm talking about. Okay, this theurgic hybridization with the writings of the Bāb simultaneously occurs usually within two languages, wherein, for example, the Bāb is writing primarily in Arabic, but then he will throw Persian words and conjugate these Persian words according to the rules of Arabic grammar. One of the best examples of this, and one of the examples that the Hawza and the Mullahs have relentlessly criticized the Bāb about, is a passage that occurs in the 10th gate of the 9th unity of the Arabic Bayān, where the Bāb conjugates and uses the Persian word chop to print in an Arabic context. The passage reads, إذا استطعتم كل آثار النقطة تملكون لو كان شابا فإن الرزق ينزل على من يملكه مثل قيد. If you are, the passage is actually a difficult Arabic wording. The syntax is a little bit, just slightly off. If you are able to own all of the writings of the point, if or as long as it be printed, then the divine sustenance descends upon the one who owns it, such as the unseen. This is the translation of this passage. Now, the mullahs and the Hawza have relentlessly ridiculed the primal point over this particular passage of the Persian Bayān. And other similar instances of this, but I don't think they themselves understand what the Bāb was doing. This particular instance in the Arabic Bayān is a blatant example of the kind of hybridization I am speaking of. This hybridization has to do with a contemplation of the divine names. Now, in this particular passage, there's a lot of complex things going on that I've mapped out in the past, which I won't get into here. But one thing I would like to show is how this hybridization, this harmonia, this theurgic harmonia that appears in the form of hybridization in language leads to quite a profound contemplation of the divine names. Now, the Bāb says that the divine names, all the names and attributes of God, is the locus of the manifestation of the primal will, the first intellect, the universal intelligence, from which the world emerges and which embodies itself in these prophetic figures and messengers and providential guides of history. Now we see this quite profound example within the Haykal-i-Din, the talisman of the religion. And this is in the sixth gate of the seventh unity of the Haykal-i-Din, especially that occurs on page 23 of the lithographed edition of this work. And this is when the Bāb uses the word mohr in Persian and not the word mah, which in Arabic means dowry, in the context of the rites of marriage, the wedding rites in the Bayān. The passage states, for example, this is just before it is telling what the words that are to be exchanged. It starts with وَلْتَقَلُونَ الْمَرَاء أَوَّلًا إِنَّ كُلَّ لِلَّهِ رَازِيَاتٍ. And the woman says first, verily with God we are pleased. ثُمَّ, okay, this is where this occurs. ثُمَّ يَمْهُرَنَّ, right? Now, يَمْهُرَنَّ. This is taking a Persian word, not the Arabic word for dowry, mehr, or mah, but using the Persian word moh, right, to conjugate in Arabic. And what it means, okay, is seal. The Bāb is using this word to denote seal. Now, the Bāb very well could have used the word khatam, a khatam, but he chose instead to use the word moh in Persian and conjugate it according to the rules of Arabic for a very, very specific letrist reason, a very specific theurgic region that will become evident in a moment. Okay? Now, yamhoranna, to make a seal, taking the Persian word for moh and conjugating it in Arabic, holds 5 letters, ya, mim, ha, ra, nun, and has a numerical value or abjad of 305, which is the numerical value of the name Qadir, the capably powerful. This name Qadir, or al-Qadir, the capably powerful, is the 16th name of the book of the names of all things, Kitab Asma Kullu Shay, and is referable to the 16th day of the first month of Baha. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. The word zawj, spouse, has a numerical value of 16th. The 347th name of the book of the names of all things, Kitab Asma Kullu Shay, is zawaj. So the Bāb takes the word or the concept of zawaj, the coupler as a divine name. And that's why the chapter, this 340 of the Book of the Names of All Things, begins with the Bismillah formula of Bismillah al-Azwaj al-Azwaj. In the name of God, the supreme coupler, the supreme coupler. Okay? This name, Zawaj, or Zawij, or Azwaj, the 347th name of the Kitab Asma'i Kullu Shay, Book of the Names of All Things, is the name specific to the 5th day of the final Bayāni month of Allah, supremacy. Now, Qadir is, as I said, referable to the 16th day of the first month of Baha, the first Bayāni month, and Zawaj is the 5th name of referable to the final Bayāni month, which is the month of supremacy, or Allah. Okay? Now, when we take the name Al-Qadir and put the pronoun Huwa Al-Qadir, it or he is the powerful and capable, and calculate it, we derive precisely the numerical value of 347. So this should tell you that there is a sort of theurgic economy at play in the way that the Bāb is conveying these concepts throughout his writings. Let me underscore this again if people missed it. Okay? Yamhoranna, to make a seal using the Persian word muhr. Okay? Bears 5 letters and holds a numerical value of 305. 305 is the numerical value of Qadir. Qaf, Alif, Dal, Ra, meaning the capably powerful. This is the 16th name of the Book of the Name of All Things, referable to the 16th day of the first month, which is Baha, splendor. Now, the word Zawj, spouse, has a numerical value of 16. Zain wa Jim, 16. The 347th name of the Book of the Names of All Things, Kitab Asma'i Kullu Shay, is Zawaj, the coupler, which is the name specific to the 5th day, right? The 347th name of the final Bayāni month of Allah. Now, when we take Huwa, the pronoun for God, of the ipsiety, Huwa al-Qadir, so Ha, Waw, Alif, Lam, Qaf, Alif, Dal, Ra, he or it, as I use this pronoun, is the capably powerful. We derive the value of 347. So right there, you see the harmonia, this theurgic hybridization that I'm talking about. This is not using bad grammar. These are not missteps on the part of the primal point. This is all very deliberate. And unless you understood these principles at work within the writings of the primal point, it is very easy to mislead. And this is precisely what happened to many of these ulama who were constantly criticizing the primal point, whether at his trial or before or later and up to this present time. And this is because those ulama specifically who have criticized the primal point's grammar are very much the same ulama who have been straight-jacketed into this Aristotelian methodology of fiqh, where the whole rule of the excluded middle is drilled into these people, and they're incapable of crawling their way out of these mental and ideational straitjackets. So this is why then they can turn around and say, yeah, you've broken the rules of Arabic syntax and grammar. Well, they don't understand this sort of theurgic hybridization, hermeticism going on. Because if they criticize the Bāb's grammar, how be it that you had these very eminent ulama, such as Sayyid Yahya Darabi, Wahid Akbar, who was very learned, eminently learned, with a father like his, Ja'far Kashfi, he understood these principles, better than anybody else. Yet he was one of the Bāb's eminent believers. Tahir Quratul Ain, from the most eminent Baraghani family of Qazvin. These people were trained in the minutiae and intricacies of Arabic grammar from the time that they were children. Surely, if the Bāb was deliberately committing grammatical mistakes, these people would have picked it out, and they certainly wouldn't have followed him, for someone who's deficient. And examples can be multiplied. These Shaykhi ulama, such as Mullah Hussein Bushri, the Bāb's first believer, etc. So the accusations of the incorrect grammar of the Bāb can pretty safely be put to rest, because the people who were criticizing him amongst the Hoseviyun did not understand what the Bāb was actually doing, did not understand that the Bāb was coding his language deliberately, and he was coding his language deliberately with incorrect grammar. And that is why when you read the Bāb, you must employ the science of the letters when you read them to understand what is going on. And the harmonia, the greater harmonia that exists in the entire corpus of the writings of the Bāb that speak to each other from one work to the other. The Persian and Arabic Bayān speaking to each other. These then in turn are speaking to the Book of the Five Grades, then to the Talisman of the Religion, that then corresponds to certain elements in the book, very important and central elements in the Book of the Names of all things. Dennis McEwen, in his sources for Bābī Doctrine and History, dismissed Kitab Asma'i Kulli Shay and attempted to, in my opinion, to quite unfairly psychopathologize the primal point based on it, because Dennis McEwen didn't understand what the Bāb was doing here either. One must employ these hieratic arts, as the late Henry Corbin classified them. The science of the letters, the ilm al-huruf, the jafr, the lettrism, in order to understand that the inner architecture of the writings of the Bāb, which can be easily gleaned if you have some very basic understanding of these sciences that were operative within the milieu of Iranian, pre-modern Iranian Shiism, and to some degree are operative even right now. Another example, and final example I would like to give, is one of my favorite passages in the Arabic Bayān that I have spoken about quite extensively, and this is the 11th gate of the 9th unity of the Arabic Bayān, where the Bāb prohibits the buying and, or rather the trade and commerce in the four elements, right? The passage, لا تبيعون عناصر الربع ولا تشترونها. Do not buy or make trade in the four elements, and do not make commerce with them, right? This passage, the entire gate is composed of this sentence, is composed of 7 letters. It's composed of exactly 7 words, composed of precisely 29 letters. Now this, to me, there's someone who has immersed themselves for as long as they have in these occult texts of Islamic faith, such as al-Buni and all the other authors, countless authors who have written about these subjects, is quite profound. And let me tell you why. The 4 elements, right? Air, fire, water, earth, right? In the system of lettrism, okay? All 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet are separated into 4 groups of 7 to correspond with the 4 elements. Now, there's also then a debate about the 29th letter of the Arabic alphabet, whether it's a pseudo letter or not. And this is the letter lam aleph, okay, which spells la or al, a definite article. So lam aleph has been debated amongst letrists and gematricians within the Islamic world for a very long time. But in the system of esoteric astrology, or the occult astrology of Islamic occult texts, the letter lam aleph is made to be the 29th or rather the central letter representing the 28 lunar mansions, right? So the constellation moved through, each of the constellation moves through 28 degrees or lunar mansions, from one moon to the next. And these are then corresponded to the 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet, with the center, okay, being the 28th mansion or pseudo mansion, sometimes depending on who you read, represented by the letter Lam Aleph. And the lunar mansions themselves are then corresponded with the four elements: air, fire, water, earth, in these divisions of four. This is the Bāb in a major ordinance of the Arabic Bayān, basically conveying this concept within the statement. Do not buy or sell the four elements. I hope people are beginning to understand what is going on in these Bābī texts. And I especially would like to debate the more learned of the Hozaviyun, especially from places like Qom and elsewhere, because it appears to me from my readings over the years that other than a very tiny fraction of people, predominantly the Hokama, the theosophers, the philosophers of the Hausa, did not really attack the Bāb on his issues of grammar. People like the late Ayatollah Sayyid Jalaluddin Ashtiani would occasionally snipe at both Sheikh Ahmed Ahsai and the Bāb, more for issues of ideology and claims, rather than on issues of grammar. Because I believe that people who have studied this area of the Islamic sciences, after reading and immersing themselves even a little bit in the writings of the primal point, begin to understand that we can't really attack the Bāb on his grammar, because he's using language in this form to convey through lettrism, through the Jaf, via incorrect grammar, greater truths, correspondences, and the harmonia of the names with the letters, etc. So they didn't criticize him on incorrect grammar, they criticized him for other things. But the more junior, mid-level, the people whose world revolves primarily around fiqh or language and nothing else, and definitely not the philosophy and definitely not the mysticism, these people are the ones that have predominantly attacked the primal point on questions of incorrect grammar. The use of the feminine case in a lot of these writings of the Bāb, especially the later writings of the Bāb, I believe has a very specific end, and this is a very, very involved and long discussion that I hope to get into at a later time. But anyway, here is the basic theory I present about the Bāb's grammar, that we are dealing with a form of a theurgic hybridization that speaks to harmonia. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. And no power and no strength is save in God, the high, the mighty.